Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is the Breaking Free Show, and I am so honored to have you join us today. My name is Marilyn Shannon, and it is a pleasure. And each and every week, I come to Mondays and I'm like, yes, I'm going to do a show today, and we're going to introduce you to somebody special, somebody doing something extraordinary, or maybe it's several somebodies. Today it's a somebody, but sometimes it's several, and I'm really excited. But before we get on with the show, I want to say hi to Amnon, our producer, who this would not be without him. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm just fine. How are you?
I'm doing good.
I want to be outside.
I know it's gorgeous. I'm looking out there, and
Yep.
it's yeah, it's magnificent, and it just looks beautiful. So yeah, later.
Have a good show.
Thank you. All right, so let's go on with our show. So I want to remind you at all times that you are more than welcome to join us on this show. Just put your name, nickname, whatever you like, and you can come into our chat and you can comment, ask questions, just give us your story. And then we're also, we also are streaming on YouTube and on Facebook and all those great places and more places. But if you want to comment, then you got to come on to nissancommunications.com/live, and you will be at the live show, which we are doing right now, and you can join us in that chat. And you can also call into the studio if you like, and that is at 919-518-9773. And I have one more way, because we are communicators. You can come in also on Skype, and that would be Skype Voice. So you can come in at Computers 2K Voice and join us there, ask questions, comment, and tell us your story. I mean, this show is for everyone. So if our guest inspires you to share something, or you have a question about it, please, 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 please feel free to join us. That is what it's all about. We are a community, and we are a community, a circle, and we want to just get that circle big. So let me introduce to you today my guest, Amber Smith. Welcome, Amber.
Hi, everybody. Good to be here.
Oh, it's so nice to have you here. So tell everybody who Amber is.
So, Amber, I am the founder and executive director of a nonprofit in Raleigh, North Carolina called Activate Good. And basically, we want to inspire people to get involved and help them connect to ways to do good in our local community.
And, I know you have taken this and spoken about it, around the country, in fact. But before we get into, just a little bit like Activate Good, how do you inspire people? What is it that you do exactly?
So what we do is we mobilize people through service, because service, in our opinion, is this manifestation of love for your community. It's how you express kindness and put it into action to improve the community, to address issues in your community. So it's all about service for Activate Good. So what we do is we partner with a network of over 500 nonprofits and community organizations and schools in our local community to identify what the biggest problems are, what are the biggest gaps and the needs in the community. And then we go and recruit volunteers and connect them to meet those needs in the community. So it could be anything from what we did this spring, which was mobilize hundreds of volunteers to help distribute laptops so kids could learn remotely from home during the pandemic. Could be fighting food insecurity by mobilizing volunteers to go deliver meals or package food at the food bank. It's any number of things. If there are problems in the community, we really believe people have the capacity and the talent to solve those problems if we work together and take action.
I couldn't agree more. And what I'm going to suggest, yes, Amber is local to North Carolina, where I am in Raleigh. However, this is big. This is a big idea and can be done anywhere in any community. So listen to her carefully, no matter where you are, because you can do this. So first of all, back up, because I've heard your story before a little bit. Tell everybody just how this idea came into fruition.
Okay, so where to begin? Because there's so many potential beginnings to this story.
And I'm sure they've changed. I'm sure the beginnings have changed. Pick one.
That's true. That's true. Okay, so I'll go back to my high school days. Back in high school, I was trying to think through, as many teenagers are, like, what do I want to do when I grow up? What do I want to be? And I kept coming back to this idea of having a career that allowed me to help people. And I hadn't quite started volunteering at that time, which is weird because there are many opportunities to volunteer in high school. I just didn't know about them yet, which is kind of the point that I'm going to make. But after high school, my best friend Heather and we had started volunteering for like everything we could get our hands on. Let's see, we have this great memory of one like particularly snowy winter in North Carolina where we went to what is now Carolina Tiger Rescue and built like a habitat for wild cats, rescued wild cats. We were serving meals at the men's shelter. We even joined a marketing campaign to help kids experience homelessness. Basically, whatever kind of volunteering we learned about and discovered and we could get our hands on, we did it. And we volunteered and volunteered. And we soon realized that we just loved every single cause that we were volunteering for. We couldn't pick a favorite cause. And that was a problem because we wanted to address causes. So at one point, it occurred to us, well, what if we spend most of our energy trying to get other people involved with us instead of just trying to do all the volunteering by ourselves? Not that we were the only ones volunteering, but you get the idea. What if we tried to be a catalyst to get other people involved? Because then if we get 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 other people involved who weren't involved before that, we could make an impact for all of these causes, all the causes that we cared about. So that was kind of like the glimmer of the idea. What happened was, sophomore year of college, she and I decided one summer we were going to save up some money. And we saved up like $800 or $1,000, which was more money than we'd ever seen ourselves at the time. But we realized after the fact this was not enough money to do what we were planning to do with it, which was drive around the country doing volunteer work and acts of kindness in every state that we visited, with a goal of inspiring more people to get involved along the journey and learning more about what the needs in our country were and bringing that back to our local community. Saved up money, went on the road trip, and learned so much, came back and started Activate Good.
Okay. So it's fascinating. So what was it? What was that glimmer? What was that thing that turned on in you that you are now able to help turn on other people? But what was that turned on in you?
No, that's such a hard question to answer. I really believe everyone has some spark, and it manifests in so many different ways. Some people discover they want to be artists or musicians, or they want to be social workers or teachers. Everyone has that moment where they realize what they want. And I think ironically, it was just the inability to choose a single thing that led me to realize that I wanted to do something that would allow me to do all the things. I don't know, fear of missing out or something, FOMO. I'd seen so many adults around me in my life, but also on television and all around the community, doing work that you could just tell it didn't click with them. It didn't really fulfill them. It didn't bring them a sense of meaning and fulfillment. Growing up, I just decided I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to be that way. So it was really important to me to be able to figure out a way to that matter. So you got like the part that's about me personally and the part that's about the cause, and they came together and the result. Did that make sense?
Oh yeah, perfect sense. I mean, it's perfect. And I love having now younger men and women on here. I'm quite a bit older than you are. And I just love sharing what is happening and what you're all doing because it's fascinating. A couple of weeks ago, I had a young woman on who started dance schools. and she's doing some really interesting things, not just in her studio, but also in helping teens activate their leadership skills. So it's really it's fabulous, and I love hearing about it because we all get to learn from each other and inspire each other to greatness, really. So you go out and actually find projects, or the projects come to you? How does that work?
A little bit of both. We are in regular contact with dozens and hundreds of nonprofits in our area who are doing amazing work. And we ask them, what do you need? What are you seeing out there? How can community support, how can volunteers make a deep impact for what you're facing? And we work it out with them, and then we go get them those volunteers.
And why do they need you to do that? Why do we need a middle person to actually do that, to inspire other people to do the work, or why?
So you would think that with the power of the internet, that figuring out how to volunteer or to make a difference would just be easy or common sense. But what we've discovered is that unless you're kind of already in that world or already familiar with the landscape, it can be quite hard to navigate for someone starting out and thinking how they want to give back and participate. There's this great research that just was published from Points of Light on civic engagement and civic life across the United States. And one of the stats that it highlighted was 40% of surveyed Americans say that figuring out how and where to volunteer is their top obstacle to getting involved. So imagine if we could remove that barrier. How many more thousands of people could we help get involved? Being a central hub where someone in our community can go see all of the volunteer opportunities from hundreds of nonprofits and know that they are vetted, that we're in good communication with those partners, that it's coming through a trusted source. We're doing all that work for them up front. All they have to do is filter on our site the things that they're interested in, sign up, and go for it.
And how do you not do this like nationally? I mean, how is it enough? I mean, it seems like once you're doing it, you could incorporate other, cities, other states. How is it? How do you control it that way?
So there's a couple of things. First, I do want to share that we are actually part of a global network of organizations that do similar work to us. It is Points of Light. So if you go to Points of Light, you see like a global map of where all the organizations like ours are. You can see there's probably some in the city that you live in. So if you're in another city, check that out. Chicago has one, New York has one, San Francisco has one. There's organizations doing amazing work across the globe. But I also want to say that it's important to keep this work local, because if you get a national database and it's just listings with information for volunteers, but the website and the administrators of that website don't have any actual connection to the people in that community, what's going to happen is the opportunities are going to go out of date. There's not going to be any follow-up to make sure people get successfully connected. It's important for us to be local because we know our community. We're not just a website. We are a community ourselves. We are talking to our nonprofit partners. We're talking to the volunteers. We're listening. We understand the needs here. So serving local and mobilizing people level, I think, is what would make us successful.
Yeah, and I'm imagining that even your volunteers are getting to know each other.
Exactly.
Right?
We have had people married because they volunteered through us.
Say that
Yeah.
again. Say that again.
Okay, so one of my favorite stats about volunteering, this is totally true. This was a 2013 study, and it was a scientific study, and the study said this: men who volunteer are more likely to attract a mate. True story. And we have seen this play out. We've seen friendships made. We've seen relationships come together. We have had volunteers meet each other and then married. or strengthen their relationship service. Volunteering brings benefits for the people doing the volunteering, not just the community.
So, what is it about volunteering? I mean, what is it? The pressure is off. Can you be yourself? Describe that.
You mean, what is it about volunteering that helps people form relationships?
Or just in general. I mean, yeah, I mean, what is it about? What is the power in volunteering that people either form relationships or it becomes such a part of who they are? They discover who they are, they form relationships. I mean, what is the power in the volunteering?
Yeah. So imagine growing up believing or never being told that you have any power, that you can't affect the world around you, you have no control. So many people grow up like this, right? When you volunteer, you opt in, you choose to give your time to something that you care about. And what you see as a result is people smiling, people having a better day, people's lives improving, people getting the food they need to not get hungry. And all of a sudden, you realize that the time you've just given of your own free will has had a ripple effect on human beings' lives around you. So I think it's addicting. The ability to make an impact feeds into itself. Once you do it, you want to do more of it because you realize in this world and in this universe in which humans have so little control over anything, we do have control over how we impact other people. And volunteering is, like I was saying before, it's like this physical manifestation of that. It's that concept in action. So I think, when you volunteer, there's so much research about this. Jokes aside about the research about men volunteering attracting mate, there's a ton of research about how volunteering is beneficial to you, the volunteer. But people who volunteer are at lower risk of depression and heart disease, more likely to make friends, find meaning. Something like unemployed and you volunteer, you're actually 27% more likely to find a job. You meet people, you develop leadership skills, and you make an impact. There's so many benefits to the person doing it.
I love what you're saying because I mean the information you're bringing over, to us. And it brought to mind a time years and years and years ago during it was Christmas time, and my family, my children and I are Jewish, and we went to help. It was called the Helping Hand Mission, I remember, and we would deliver toys, gifts to you know um, to marginal individuals, let me say. And I can remember pulling up in this van with these gifts. And I felt like we had laid the golden egg. People were so excited and happy and like in love with us because we brought them presents for Christmas. And it was a feeling I will never forget. It was an experience I will never forget. It was a time I will never forget. And I used to do those things with my children. And I really believe that that has really made a big difference in their growing up and in their maturity and who they are as women. So yeah, what you're saying is so cool. And so like what we've all been through now and what we're continuing to go through with COVID, and how has that played out with Activate Good?
Yeah. So this is the question, right? How does an organization that is based on getting people out there volunteering, typically in person, how do we respond to this?
Well, that plus the kinds of things you're being asked to do,
yeah, yeah.
right? Or both those things I think are imperative.
So middle of March, everything starts to go down. Within a week or two, about 95% of our volunteer projects are canceled. Our nonprofit partners shut their doors to figure stuff out. It wasn't safe to volunteers, so they stopped all volunteer signups. So we took some time to work with them and figure out how people can still be serving them and supporting the work, because the work didn't stop, just the get volunteers to help with the work stopped. So imagine on the one side, you've got all these nonprofits who are already stretched thin on a typical day, now being asked to this extremely magnified need with no volunteer support and a decrease in financial support because fundraising events got canceled, donors and corporate sponsors and foundations started to pull back, at least temporarily, so they could figure out what was going to happen. Everyone was freaking out. So what we were able to do was pivot pretty quickly to virtual volunteering, at least in many cases, and then also work to identify what, if any, safe, in-person, socially distanced volunteer opportunities still existed to help address some of these huge needs we were seeing. Some of the big needs included, right there in April, the schools shut down, and then 10,000 kids in our district alone didn't have internet access. Can you imagine? They couldn't even learn remotely, let alone not having a computer or device, but they didn't even have internet access. So we partnered with our school system and mobilized volunteers very quickly to configure 10,000 Wi-Fi hotspots to get out to these families. Food insecurity through the roof. I think I just heard it used to be like 1 in 9, I think nationwide, people were experiencing food insecurity. Now it's 1 in 8. There were reports of lines around the block at the food bank and food pantries. So volunteers helping deliver meals and safely package food at the food bank. So we were identifying needs where people could still be safe, and then virtual volunteer needs also, things that could be done on a computer. We had kindness calls to seniors, check in on seniors while they were isolated. It's all about just adjusting to the needs and figuring out how to safely do what you got to do.
And I was speaking to Amber before we all went live, and I was sharing a little bit about my mother, who's 95, and many of you have heard me mention her before, and she's been on before, but she's bored. She's used to being out with her friends, and I know she's 95, but she's amazing, and she's used to being out with her friends. She's used to driving around and doing her thing. She can't even go into a grocery store anymore and pick out her own food, and that's really getting to her. So Amber started telling me some things that my mother could do, and I said, whoa, hold on, don't tell me now. Tell me online. So tell me, what can my mother do?
If you're good with technology, if you got access to a computer, there's lots of things you can be doing virtually, from research, writing for nonprofits, grant writing, fundraising, etc. There's also what we call remote volunteering, which might not involve a computer, but involves doing something in your home or space. So if you have access to some supplies, you could be doing letters for isolated seniors, or we actually have an opportunity on our website right now. You can write letters to folks struggling with addiction. You can be making cards for kids in the hospital. If you have some resources to spare, we have this wonderful opportunity to do supply drive and then put together family essentials kits. Right now, there are hundreds of families in our local area who are having to basically choose between eating dinner and having soap. So, people can put together these kits from their living room and drop them off at one of our participating locations and get some help to those folks.
It's fascinating. I'm going to see about my mother. I'm going to ask her. Seriously, because I think it would really, even if, an hour a day would be a huge help to her and to somebody else. So I love the idea. So before we go on, I'm going to ask Amnon to show the eye contact graphic. Here it goes. So I just did the People's Opioid Summit. I just helped facilitate it, and Eye Contact, who is an email marketing organization, helped me tremendously get out lots of messages. And so if you are interested in knowing more about it, please use the code Breaking Free. Contact them. They are wonderful, and they have a lot of support for nonprofits. And And ironically, I didn't know this, but Amber is using them. So Amber, why don't you give them a little plug? Because I mean, I know what they did for me, and it was huge. What do they do for you?
So we've been using eye contact for our newsletters for quite some time, helping get volunteer opportunities out to the community. So thanks, eye contact.
So that worked out great. Who knew, right? So now, so what part do you play with Activate Good now? What is your role?
As executive director, and I mean, we're still a small nonprofit. So that means I get to wear many hats. I help oversee programs and direct our staff. I do a lot of fundraising. I develop marketing materials and campaigns. Basically, I do a little bit of everything and support my team who each owns a piece of the puzzle. So we've got our wonderful volunteer programs manager, Rose, and her responsibility is maintaining relationships with all of our nonprofit partners and coordinating volunteers who sign up. And then we have, our operations coordinator who's helping me keep everything going behind the scenes so that we can still stay like a sustainable organization with good infrastructure to be able to do things. And we've got our social media and marketing folks who are helping get the word out. We can't reach people, we can't get them to volunteer, and then we can't fulfill our mission. So everyone plays a role.
So these are all paid members of your staff?
Yeah, so we have a small team of paid staff, but then most of what we do is serviced by volunteers. So we have a wonderful board of directors, a volunteer board, and then we have about 30 to 40 volunteer project leaders who are out there leading projects that we are mobilizing for. And then we have a database network of about 29,000 people in our local community who are receiving volunteer needs, who are signing up for what they're interested in and are out there doing the volunteer work.
So of the 29,000 people, what percentage of them continue in their involvement?
It's hard to know, track that without more advanced technology than we have. But what I can tell you is that for the past several years, each year we've been tracking about 11 to 12,000 volunteer connections per year. So that's how many engagements are happening. And the value of that over time is millions of dollars in volunteer labor into the community.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that. I
Yeah.
hadn't even thought about that. That is really great. I hadn't even thought about it.
Consider that, a lot of nonprofits have some paid staff, but it's never enough to really fulfill everything that nonprofits are expected to do. And so volunteers truly amplify the work of these organizations. I'm not sure of the exact numbers, so don't quote me on this, but the food bank often says the volunteers that we have equal some number of staff, and it's some high number, like equal 40 more paid staff than we have, so they're like doubling or something their staff capacity, which means they can serve so many more people. But skilled, competent staff for nonprofits is often needed to be able to keep the ship running, to direct all these people. You get out of the work what you put in. When we are able to invest professional skills and are full-time doing it, we have seen our impact quadruple.
That's incredible, really. So I just want to remind everyone to please feel free to call in if you've had personal experience with Activate Good, or you want to talk about volunteering or creating something like this in your community, or you're involved in a nonprofit, whatever you are doing, please feel free to call in and share, your personal experience, 919-518-9773, or you can join us in our chat and ask questions and so forth in there. Just put your name under the video, and then also you can come in on Skype at Computers 2K Voice. So are you in need now of volunteers? Are you in need of nonprofit projects? What do you need now?
Everything, everything all the time.
I'm sure money, right?
Yes, we will also gracious financial conditions. And it's a good return on investment. When you donate $1 to Activate Good, we're able to turn that into at least $3 in benefit to the community. So it's like triple the return on investment. What we're seeing and hearing and reading, not just in our community, but there, is that nonprofits are scared. There's something like 7% of nonprofits across the country have already gone under or are at risk of imminently going under as a result of the financial impact of COVID-19. So I say to you, if you love a nonprofit in your community, support them however you, because they need you now.
Amber, are you
So-
noticing a theme, a trend in the types of nonprofits, or what nonprofits are not making it? Do you see anything that's happening?
I haven't seen a specific research on that yet, but if I hazard a guess, the nonprofits who are able to do like urgent crisis response, like food banks, et cetera, health clinics, they
Can you hear me? Is that
testing 1, 2.
okay? There you go.
Yeah. Am I back? Okay.
You are back,
What was the
honey.
last thing you heard me say? Okay.
Testing 1, 2.
Okay. So what I was saying was the nonprofits that are delivering like urgent crisis response types of programming, food banks, health clinics, et cetera, they need a lot of resources because their workload has gone up significantly, but they're also probably likely to be getting more support from the government, from companies, et cetera, because it's an urgent need right now, which makes total sense. But the impact of that is that organizations who still are doing very critical and important work, but not getting as much attention, arts organizations, theaters, possibly some organizations that serve kids or schools, like they might be getting less support right now because people can't wrap their minds around why we would need to sustain them into long term, compared to, delivering critical services like helping someone have dinner tonight. It's totally understandable, but the consequence is if we don't get support to all of the organizations in the nonprofit ecosystem, we're not going to have them later when we need them. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes perfect sense. And I'm, sitting here and thinking to myself, nonprofits are like part of our backbone.
Yeah. Yeah.
The work that nonprofits do, who would do?
Exactly. And some theorize that nonprofits exist because of a gap in the marketplace. Companies aren't serving this population, government's not doing it, someone's got to do it, so the nonprofits step up. But they're not nice to have organizations, they're critical to have organizations. They're doing that work. Across the country, they employ 10% of the nation's workforce. It's huge. Nonprofits are huge. And I would wager that the majority of the American population has been served or impacted by a nonprofit at some point in their lives and possibly didn't even realize it.
You don't even, it's kind of like, you just go, it's like other things, you just kind of go along and you just make some assumption that some nonprofit or nonprofits will always be there or just part of our economy and our communities, but not so. And just like business, now, lots of different businesses have closed up. So of course, nonprofits are not going to make it. And it's not just, they don't just serve a certain population. They can serve anybody.
Yeah.
Right?
Art museum. If you've been to a museum, many schools are nonprofits. Private charter schools, nonprofits, food pantries, food banks. And what we realized through this pandemic is even if you've never needed the services of a food bank before, everything's connected. You might have needed those services. it's all connected, and we need to just take care of each other and take care of this non system, because they truly are holding everyone together right now.
So I guess one of the questions I have is, are you noticing, because people were out of work, or, you know, work has changed? I mean, we're home more, people aren't running around as much. We don't have that many places to go and things to do. Are you noticing more people wanting to be involved?
I am. I am noticing that. And while we did see an uptick in folks wanting to volunteer because they'd unfortunately lost their jobs, we're also seeing an increased passion for getting involved. I think this whole situation, like I said, has underscored how connected we are to each other. We're bombarded with bad news every single day. People are frustrated. People are sick of it. People are realizing some of the things we thought were important are not as important as we thought they were. And giving back, getting involved, volunteering is a way to find meaning in this situation and make things a little bit better, at least for someone.
And at the end of the day, and I'm speaking to everybody out there, including myself, at the end of the day, doing an act of kindness, is, what helps you go to bed at night and wake up the next morning when things are gloomy. And, there have been a lot of times where things have been gloomy. So where are you taking Activate Good? Like, what's your dream?
Well, before COVID happened, literally the week before COVID happened, we were actually in the process of launching part of the next dream for Activate Good. We we had spent all of 2019 developing this really robust business plan for a community center.
Excuse me, when you say we, are you talking about your small team? Is there somebody else? Who's we?
Our board of directors, our staff, the whole team, and volunteers who also had an input as well. Excuse me. We had developed a plan to launch a community center, like a physical space. And that idea was, we would call it the Good Hub. And the idea was that anyone would be able to come in, walk through the building, and see volunteer needs throughout their community, like on the wall, maybe in some kind of like interactive exhibit format. They'd be able to use touchscreen and fun, engaging museum-like displays to understand community issues in the triangle. So imagine if you've ever been to like a kids museum or something, picture it like that. You walk in, you touch the screen on the wall, and you can learn all about homelessness in Raleigh, the scope of it, the scale of it, how to help, what's being done, stories of people impacted, all before you. And then a call to action. Great, you've learned about this. Now here's a way you can take action and address the issue. So that would be an engaging exhibit section of the building. Then we would have an event space where people could come together for large-scale service projects. You could bring your Girl Scouts club. You could have a philanthropy party. You could do all sorts of things and be a civic space for people to do good in this building. And then part of the building would be affordable office spaces for nonprofits in our community where we could collaborate and benefit from all the volunteers coming through the door. It's going to be this vibrant, colorful, engaging, fun space that made you feel welcome and excited to get involved.
It's going to be?
It is going to be, yes. And we had actually secured a temporary space to pilot test this concept, and had gotten some sponsorships, we'd gotten some equipment, we set up the space, and we had our launch party on February 29th. So 1 week later, we had to shut it all down. And so that is the next dream for Activate Good. You're right, it's not gone forever, it's just on pause right now. But the idea was, the community needs a space where people can come together as a community to do good. And the whole space is about doing good.
Well, I can't think of anything that would be more motivating than to see the stories and to be able to be kind of like the stories grabbing you in, like, and have, I think that's brilliant.
Well,
That is
thank
a
you.
brilliant layout. So is the facility still available and you've just had to pause that, or do you need a new space?
So that space was only intended to be temporary to do a pilot test so we could test out the concept, get feedback from the community, etc. That space is not available anymore. So this project is probably on pause at least till the middle of the year until we can see how the pandemic plays out. But what I truly believe is, especially after this situation, we're going to be craving the opportunity to come together as a community even more than we were before the pandemic.
Yeah,
It's also, yeah,
and I absolutely, and I don't want to interrupt you. Hold your thought. People, n- I think people really thrive when they can see good being done. It gives people hope. You know, there's so much negativity. There's a lot of negativity. I don't always buy into it because, you know, there's always the other flip side to me. That's, I mean, you know, just keep on going, believing in the positiveness of things. And, you know, and I think people need to see it. We need to see the action. We need to see the seeds being planted and the flower and the trees and the bushes being grown. So, yeah.
and it's not just that, but we had this whole vision for creating an experience when you walk through the door, being enthusiastically greeted by someone, made to feel welcome. You know, if you're someone who has been kind of thinking about how you might get involved for a while, but you've been kind of nervous about it, we want to create a warm and friendly place where you can explore your interests and figure out what's going to be the best fit for you without having to worry about being anxious or nervous or not knowing what to do.
Many years ago, I created my personal mission. And my personal mission, my personal movement, and it's behind everything that I do, is re-enchanting the planet.
Love
It's
that.
Thank you. And I didn't come up with the word, obviously, but I saw it written, and I saw a poem that spoke exactly to what I couldn't verbalize myself. And my husband and I used to walk and dream of having like re-enchant communities, re-enchant places where we could come together and fulfill the idea of re-enchanting the planet, which meant that the planet was already enchanted. We
Mm.
just had to come together and re-enchant it by coming together, creating things together that would show the enchantment. That is how re-enchant is you show the enchantment. It's not like it's gone away. You just lift this veil that's there, and it's and that's how you re-enchant it. So what you're doing is lovely, lovely. And I know, with it beyond a shadow of a doubt, Amber, that it's not that long into the future, because regardless of what COVID does, COVID-19, COVID-20, or whoever it is, no matter what it is, we're going to find a way to do these things. We're going to we are finding ways of living our lives in the midst of whatever this thing is, however long it's going to be. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you about re-enchanting because I joke sometimes to my friends that I feel like I'm living in an idealistic bubble because everyone around me is someone who is like an awesome change maker in some way, you know. They're out there making a difference, they're helping people. I'm just surrounded by these people all the time because of the work that I do. But I
And you're the lucky one.
and yeah, that's how I feel. I feel lucky to be surrounded by them, but there are so many people who have a different experience of people who are maybe not so nice around them, and it's easy to get cynical. But I really believe and have seen that at their core, everyone wants to do good. Everyone wants to be a part of something bigger than themselves, to be a part of the community, to feel that connection, to give and receive love. And service is a vehicle for that for us, you know, and the community becomes what we make it. So if we can put a physical space on the map of this city, that's what and the triangle will. You invest in the things that are important to you. You put your time and your money, not just as individuals but as a city, as a community, into the future you want to see. So if you want to see a city where everyone is engaged and helping each other out and helping lift each other up when there's troubled times, you invest in putting that on your map. And that's kind of what the Good Hub is about. It's creating an environment around us that is conducive to allowing everyone to be a change maker.
Yeah, I believe that we can absolutely do that. I believe we can, that this is heaven on earth. We just have to see it that way. And then we hope, other people see it too. So anytime you want to come back on, we're not done yet, but anytime you want to come back on with sharing projects, talking to people, we could actually, be outside, when things are right, and share different experiences that people are having, and how this is impacting their lives and their stories. I'm all about it. So anytime you want to do that, you just let me know.
Well, thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. So hold on just a second. So Amnon, you have my books. So I don't self-promote a whole lot, and it ain't about me, but it is about these subjects that I am so passionate about. And so here are my books. They're all on Amazon. In Just One Afternoon, Listening to the Hearts of Men, which focuses on men, men and their stories and how they share their emotional insight as far as parents, coming in, going in jail, coming out of jail, just incredible stories about men. And it's raw and real. And then In Just One Afternoon, Listening to the Hearts of Twins, great ideas about sibling rivalry and parenting and just conflict resolution. Twins teach us every single day about how to get along. And if they can, we all can learn bits and pieces from them to make it better. Millennials, I love Millennials. They have so much to teach, and they are really great. And they're an example of a really great generation that we have to get to know, and we all get to know learn and understand each other. And then In Just One Afternoon, Listening to the Hearts of People Impacted by Opioid Addiction, just launched. It's on Amazon, and amazing stories from both family members, lovers, individuals that are currently using, individuals that are in recovery, but you get to see who they are to their core. And that is what turned me on to so many things when I got to really understand who an addict is to their core. Made a difference in my life. And then soon now I'll be working on In Just One Afternoon, Listening into the Hearts of Black Fathers. And that is, let me tell you, my friends, very exciting. So thank you, Amnon. So now tell everyone how they can get involved. This is a really good time. Just promote the heck out of everything.
There are so many ways. If you're in the Triangle area and you want to volunteer, check our website, activategood.org. We have hundreds of volunteer needs there. We have some featured campaigns highlighted. Right now, we are assembling 50,000 mask kits to distribute across our area. We're helping kids who are in need of remote learning support. We're doing all sorts of things. The family essentials kits that I mentioned before are up there. Check that out. One thing I'm really excited about is our Family Volunteer Day. Every year we hold this. Normally it would be one big event in a space with like 200 families in one room, ages 3 and up, all volunteering together. But this year we're doing take-home service projects. So if you're in the local area, you can sign up and come by our office on Family Volunteer Day. That's Saturday, November 21st. Pick up a take-home service project kit and do good from your living room with your family. And virtual volunteering. Check out our site for that. And finally, we have an amazing opportunity right now. We have a very, very generous donor has agreed to give us a challenge grant of $25,000 if we can get to 200 new givers. So we just surpassed the halfway mark. We're at 101 new monthly givers. So we got a little bit of ways to go. Once we get to 200, we'll get that challenge grant from our wonderful donor that will really, really help us sustain the work that we're doing for COVID response, for ongoing youth leadership, etc. So you can check that out at activategood.org.
That's great. And what about, and are you looking for other nonprofit partners?
We are always looking for amazing partners. If you are a local nonprofit and you think that a partnership with us could be beneficial to you, check out our site, look at the Nonprofit Partners tab, and you'll get all the information you need about eligibility requirements and how to apply to be a partner.
And I would say to those of you out there that are nonprofits, people have all kinds of skills. And I'm sure volunteers show up that are across the board from all walks of life who have had all kinds of experiences. And so, you can really get a lot of help from a network like this. So I would highly recommend reaching out to Activate Good to see what might come your way. So Amber, I know you say very, 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 very busy. So who else is Amber? What else does Amber do?
Well, thanks for asking. I would say in my spare time, but that sometimes feels like a thing that doesn't exist. But I like a lot of different things. I've got a very adorable dog sleeping behind me. Love spending time with her. Kira is her name. It's a 2.5-year-old lab mix. Love her to death. I like to paint. I sing with my mom. We do Broadway and holiday tunes. Possibly not this year because we won't be able to go out in public to sing at retirement communities and whatnot. That's a favorite tradition of ours. I like to share knowledge about nonprofits. I have a YouTube channel, and it's all sorts of things that I attempt to do in my spare time when possible.
So tell us about the YouTube channel.
Yeah, so it's just under my name, Amber Melanie Smith. Throw in my middle name there for good measure. I've learned so much starting Activate Good from scratch with amazing people around me, made many, many mistakes along the way, and have been asked by so many others throughout this journey, okay, like how do I start a nonprofit, make it succeed? So I decided, well, what if I just start putting all of my thoughts on that topic in video form? And I did. I started that about last year.
I'm sure whatever Amber puts her mind to and her heart to, she succeeds. Okay, you back? Well, can you hear me,
I
Amber?
am.
Okay. All right.
Yes,
So
I'm sorry. I don't know my internet or what's going on there.
yeah, so it happens. So you were saying you started about a year ago, the YouTube channel. So do you
Yes.
take comments and questions? You're having a lot of that? A lot of people interested in starting a nonprofit?
Oh yeah, a lot of people see nonprofits as a pathway for them to do good in the world, um, and to find their next part of their life, what they want to do with it. So getting lots and lots of great engagement on the channel, people asking questions about various aspects of running a nonprofit, starting a nonprofit, etc.
I guess this is an important question. Funding. How hard is it to get funding?
I mean, any nonprofit would tell you it's the hardest part of the work, and um, something all nonprofits are constantly in need of. I think what's scary now, though, is we're seeing this sort of ripple effect of the economic impact of the pandemic, and no nonprofit knows what's about to happen. It's very, very hard to plan for the future and for future financial sustainability in this period of time. So funding, very, very important.
Let me say this, because I'm a marketer from way back. You got to look outside your box for funding. I think if people go to the same old places, it might not be so good. But you've got to look for other opportunities to generate money from a sponsorship. And one thing I learned a long time ago when I was working for a newspaper organization that works strictly in the nonprofit arena, you have to think of yourself as a business. If you do not think of yourself as a business, who will want to give you money?
Right.
Nobody. You got to have a good structure. Go ahead, Amber.
No, I agree with you. And, donations, so many nonprofits rely on individual donations. A lot of people who are starting a nonprofit think that grants are the silver bullet for funding their nonprofit, but actually, select few nonprofits can really rely on grants, but most nonprofits cannot rely on grants. So you really do have to think of other strategies, earned income strategies, other revenue generating sustainable models.
Yeah, I grant writing is really interesting because you got to know how to write them. That it don't just happen. You don't just write it and then submit it and get money. So
Right.
you all have to have money coming in automatically because there are cycles for grants. So that may not be your number one way of getting money. You have to find other interesting ways that people want to help you. And if you've got a good idea, you got to be able to, monetize it.
And prove it. Yeah. I always think to myself that getting grants is like 90% having a solid, impactful program and just about 10% actually writing the grant.
And you're selling something. You got to
Yeah.
be able to sell something in there. So tell everybody again where they find you and how they find you.
Yeah. So if you want to get involved in my work with Activate Good, activategood.org. You can also social media. We're very active on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Our handle is just Activate Good. And I hope that you'll get involved. And if you're not in the Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, aka the Triangle area, check out other ways to volunteer in your community because now is the time to get involved. There's such need, and you can find such fulfillment doing it. So I hope that you'll take the opportunity to check that out.
And mention that the organization that you are a part of that has, they don't maybe call them Activate Good around the country, but other community organizations like yourself. What's the name of that organization?
It's the Points of Light Global Network. So look up that organization. You'll see a map of all of the organizations like Activate Good around the globe that currently exist. And if there isn't one in your town, you can reach out to them.
Say, Amber, say that again. You can do what? Oops. Yeah.
If there isn't a Points of Light affiliate town and you're interested in starting one, you can reach out to them to get that process.
So is that like a franchise?
Kind of, but every affiliate is like independent, and we make our own rules here at Activate Good, but we benefit from the collaboration and partnerships in the network.
Well, that's a great community then.
Yeah.
Now repeat again about your YouTube channel.
So it's youtube.com/Amber Melanie Smith. I don't know if you can hear, my dog is having a nightmare behind me. It's super cute.
No, I don't hear it. But with all these kinds of shows these days, Zooms and Hangouts and everything, it's like, I don't care
Right.
anymore. I don't care. A dog's barking, a kid is crying, somebody's jumping on your lap. I mean, it doesn't even matter anymore because you know what matters? The
People
work, the people.
and the work.
Yeah, it doesn't matter anymore to me. The people matter. The work that you're doing matters. The network you have that through you gets a voice. That's what matters. The help that you're doing. I could care less that a dog is barking. So, final words of wisdom from you, Amber.
I would say if you've got the time and you're feeling like you're in a good position, you've got the resources where you can give to your community right now, don't wait. Now is the time to save the nonprofits you care about that are tackling the causes you care about, who need your time, who need your talents. Don't put it off. If you've been thinking about it for a while and you're in a good position to do so, do it as soon as you can.
One more thing I want to add to that, which I would have liked to have said early on. You don't have to commit to doing work indefinitely.
That's right.
That's important. Can you talk about that for a second?
Yeah, a lot of people have a certain idea of what volunteering looks like, but what we know is that volunteering takes a million different forms. You can volunteer for 2 hours on a Saturday. You can make an ongoing commitment. You can spend 5 minutes volunteering doing something on your computer. There's all sorts of different commitment lengths and activities and types of things you can do. Whatever your cause is that you're about, whatever your skills, there is a fit out there for you.
Perfect. So I want to thank you for being so beautiful today.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. You're very welcome. You're eloquent. You've got a really good message, and you're headed in a really great direction. And we're all very fortunate to have somebody like you out there. So
Well,
thank
thank
you.
you.
And everyone out there today, thank you so much. You have been honored to speak with, to hear her and to see what's going on. It's a privilege. So I want to thank Amnon too. Thank you, Amnon, for everything you do.
You're welcome.
And we'll see you all next week. Have a great week, everyone. Bye.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.